I'm an applesauce and sour cream
me too.
person.
And
really?
caviar.
Oh my god! Wow.
Caviar.
Wow. That's.
All right. Well, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Politics.
So just to start off, what has your career been like in public service, and why did you choose this path?
It has been amazing. It really has been, and I have to say, so I started out after college. I didn't really know what I wanted to do, and I ended up becoming a public school teacher, and I was teaching 4th grade in the South Bronx in New York, and it was incredible, and it was fun. I had 32 students, but the fact was that there were needs that weren't being met during the day, and I had a student in particular who he would show up to class and he would sleep all day, every day, and I was trying to figure out why. Why was he sleeping? Why was he, so tired? And I talked to him and he wouldn't tell me. And it turned out it was because he was homeless. And he was staying up all night to guard his stuff with his father in their homeless shelter. And that was the kind of story that made me feel like I want to do more. And I want to get into the core of the work. I want to address these issues more systemically. What I say about it is that public service has been the most incredible way to be involved in all of the issues that I assume we're going to talk about, with all of these incredibly smart, talented people who care so much about making the world a better place. And it's just been the most incredible career I could possibly imagine.
Speaking more to your time as a speechwriter, what did you glean about the inner workings of government at that level?
Yes, well, I think that was it was an interesting time to be in Washington. It was an interesting time to be working in the White House and seeing what was happening or not happening in Congress. And I think I took away a few things. One of which is that the people doing this work, for the most part, are fundamentally good, decent people who are trying to do the right thing. And I think that's just an important fact to remember, that most people who put in the time and the energy to do this work, I often say to people, none of us are in public service for the money or for the hours.
Right.
And if you are, you're in the wrong business. So there's got to be something else that's making you sign up to put your name on a sign, to go and try to do this work. And I think the nice thing is that there are a lot of people who are in this work for the right reasons, to do right by people, to make the world a little bit better, to make people's lives a little better and a little safer. And I just think that what I saw was that for as much as we complain about the system, for as much as we're frustrated by what's not happening in Washington, our government is what we make of it. And, Barney Frank, who used to be a member of Congress from our district, used to say that government is just the name we give to the things we choose to do together. And I think that that's really true. And we have this moment to change things, to do things together, that a lot of people would tell us, oh, that's not possible. But we have to care about it, and we have to work together, and we have to work on these things together.
So just moving on a little further down your career path, since you left the White House, you've been an assistant attorney general in Maura Healey's office. So what does an assistant attorney general do? Like, what has your work been focused on?
Yeah, frankly, I wasn't entirely sure what I would be doing when I got to the Attorney General's office. I just knew, I had been a lawyer beforehand and had really just so admired Maura Healey, had known her for a few years and been so inspired by the campaign that she ran and the point of view that she brought to politics, which is about, she calls herself the people's lawyer. And says that, her job is to really stand up for communities and be a voice for communities that don't have a voice, and be somebody who can defend people who need protection. And that's really what we did in the office. And what that meant was that on so many issues, we were on the front lines. Also, across the office, there are these bureaus that all do their own incredibly important work. So for some bureaus, that meant, in the Energy and Environment Bureau, their job was to make sure that we're enforcing our energy and environmental laws, and that when somebody breaks those laws, we as Massachusetts are able to stand up and say, this is wrong, you've broken the law, it's against our interests, and we're taking you to court. But a lot of the most important work of the office is stuff that never is on the front page of the newspaper. It's, veterans and single parents who got cheated by a for-profit college. And we would go and try to make sure that they got their loan debt refunded. Oh, do you hear Brody the dog? He has a lot to contribute on this subject as well.
He's very passionate about it.
He is. He cares deeply about the work of the AG's office. But so much of that work, people with subprime auto loans, right? That's not an issue that's going to be on the front page of the newspaper tomorrow, probably. But for people who all of a sudden got suckered into a car they couldn't possibly afford, often people who were vulnerable to begin with, that's one of the most important issues that they're facing in their life. And so whether it was the Energy Environment Bureau, whether it was the Criminal Bureau, where we were, going after human traffickers and drug traffickers, whether it was the, Consumer Protection Bureau, all of these bureaus and divisions, they're brilliant lawyers who go to work every day to uphold the public interest and enforce our laws. And it was really an incredible place to be for the last couple of years.
Speaking more to that behind the scenes work of government, what would you say is the biggest misconception about politics or government in general?
There are a few. The first thing that I would say is that the biggest misconception is back to that sort of Barney Frank point of view, which is that government is something foreign, that politics is something somebody else does. The reality is that everybody that's in elected office is just a person who decided that they wanted to try to serve their community. And the people, speaking of behind the scenes, the people that are working with them, same thing, right? This is work that anybody can be a part of. And it's not just about a presidential election every 4 years or even congressional elections every couple years. It's at every level of government, top to bottom. Who your city councilors are, who your school committee members are, who your mayor is. All of that is so important. And I think that's one thing that a lot of people who, are busy living their lives and, studying and, working at a job and commuting and raising a family, one of the things that they don't often have time to see is how hard so many people are working behind the scenes on their behalf. And so that's the first thing. The second thing I would say is that change isn't possible. The cynicism that says, our political system is broken and it's not worth your time. Don't bother getting involved. Nothing's ever going to change anyway. Because I certainly heard that when I was in high school. I was getting involved in campaigns then. And a lot of my classmates would say things like, well, but isn't politics isn't that just really disappointing? Does nothing ever really change? And the truth is, I think what I saw on the Obama campaign, what I saw with the Healy campaign, and what I think we've seen with so many of these movements and these campaigns over the years is that change is absolutely possible and far faster than a lot of people realize. But it doesn't just happen overnight. It happens when we work together. We obviously had record turnout last year in the midterms. Young people were participating in rates that they hadn't been in decades. And I think that is what we need to remember, is that if we get involved, if we show up, we can still change the game on these issues. We can still make meaningful change, but we have to dig in and we have to do that work.
What do you think is the most rewarding part of being a public servant?
There are a lot, but I will say it's seeing the tangible difference you can make for people in their lives. These issues that we talk about sometimes in the abstract, we talk about as, ending the family separation policy in the abstract. But the reality is, behind every single one of these policies, behind every single one of these decisions we make, are real people whose lives are tangibly made better by the things that we do, or sometimes made worse if we don't act. And so, whether it was working on the Affordable Care Act in the White House and meeting people who said, the Affordable Care Act saved my life. I was able to go to the doctor and find out that I had cancer and get treatment. Or whether it was a veteran who'd been cheated by a for-profit online college. All of these people, when you actually get out and you get out of the office, which I do recommend to people, in public service, get out of the office and go and talk to people. You will discover that this work really matters to people in their lives. And I think it's such an incredible way to get to help people and get to serve others and get to do work that's just so meaningful that you get to go home at the end of the day. And yeah, you've had a long day, but you get to go home and you get to feel like, at least I did something that really mattered to somebody else today. I did something that really helped someone today. And it allows you to, wake up the next morning and feel like you're ready to run back to work and keep doing the job.
And how, as a member of Congress, do you plan on maintaining a connection to the real people in your district, even while you're in Washington some of the time?
That's true, yeah. Right, because your job does require you to do both. Mm-hmm. But look, I think that there's a reason the job is called representative. And it's incumbent upon all of us who are trying to be elected officials to represent people. The job, I think, is to go where people are and not just say, well, I'll be here and you should come see me, and try to make an appointment, but to actually be accessible to people and go to those events, go into the community. That's one of the things I've seen be really impactful, and that, good public servants do, is make themselves as accessible as possible to the people that they're serving, because at the end of the day, that's the job. And so, it's a big district. It's not, it's no easy task, but that's why you have offices in multiple places. And, the good thing is I don't need a lot of sleep. I really like coffee, and I'm happy to go meet people where they are and talk for as long as they want to talk.
Awesome. Well, I think you answered the next question, so I'll just move right to the last one. We really, really appreciate you taking time out of your schedule to talk to us. So
my pleasure.
Why do you think students should take time out of their schedules to learn and engage in government?
I'm glad you asked that. I completely get why people are feeling cynical at times. And I've heard that a lot. And I assume you might have heard that from some of your classmates and people you know. I totally get that. And I was told the same things when I started to get in politics. The reality, though, is that what I saw when I was younger, and even now, I still consider myself somewhat young, is that these are issues that are really, most of all, going to impact us. It's our generation. It's the world that we're going to live in. And so this is the best way to get involved and make a real difference. And the fact is, I am aware that young people are involved, right? Often people say, well, young people just aren't engaged. That's not true. Young people are engaged all the time in so many projects that often they feel like politics and government is just something that's not worth their time, because they're not going to see what they want. They're not going to make real change. But I think part of what we have to do as a country is change that. We have one of the lowest rates of voter participation of any of our peer countries. And that's something that we can change, right? We can go to high schools, we can go to colleges, and we can really show people that this is worth their time and investment and energy. And the payoff is enormous. Dr. Martin Luther King used to talk about how anybody can be great. Everybody can be great because anybody can serve. And I really think that this is a moment where we have to answer some tough questions. And so I do think it is on us. But the good news is we have a lot of creative, talented people who are willing to get in this work and get things back on the right track. That's why I'm running for Congress. That's why I really, really want to make this a campaign that people believe in. And that's why I want people to make a statement next year, not just about voting for me, although I hope they do, but about this democracy and about the world that we want to live in and the society we want to have. And so, I think that this is an incredible opportunity for people to get involved. If they haven't been, now's the time.
All right. Well, thank you so much for talking.
Yeah, thank you both for coming over.
Enjoy your pizza.
Likewise.